Truth.
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 Welcome to Trusting the Truth with Samuel Tolley, where we view the world through the lens of Jesus Christ. We do not view Jesus Christ through the lens of the world. How you doing? This is Sam Tolley with Trusting the Truth. And today I want to discuss more about the media mind control slave masters. Excuse me, my throat's a little irritated. I've been dealing with a cough lately. Hopefully I'm getting over it, but be warned. The media mind control slave masters are functioning all around us. And many people have no idea that they're being controlled by the media. In George Orwell's 1984, and I believe the book was written in 1947, they had what they called telescreens in your houses and in public and different areas. It's like our flat screen TV. And Big Brother was always watching. Is that what they tell you? Well, for many years, we had televisions that only we could watch whatever was being broadcast to us, even though propaganda and subliminal messages and all kinds of thoughts were being sent to us. However, now, with our modern day technology, we have cameras on our televisions, cameras on our computers. I'm using a camera right now. And it has the capacity for people on the other side of the camera to see you. Many of these televisions will even allow remote access to your television or a computer. Someone can have the technology and turn your camera on without you even knowing it. Have you ever sit around the house and said, well, Siri, turn on this music, and it does? Or I've been in an occasion where I'm watching television, having a conversation with my wife, and my television will answer me. AI, it's only this infancy. This thing gets more and more acute. It's going to get more and more powerful. But for the purposes of this podcast, talking about the media mind control, we are being indoctrinated. In many cases, we don't even know. There are many of us that have no idea what's going on with the media because we look at the media as it was intended to be. The media was supposed to be the fourth branch of government, however, unelected. And let me explain what I mean by that. We have the executive branch, which is the presidency and all the cabinets and all the offices that he runs. We have the legislative branch, which is the Senate and the Congress, who makes the bills, who makes the laws that govern our land. And we have the judicial branch, which is the courts, which interpret those laws and deal with legal ramifications. The fourth branch of government is a free press. And the free press is supposed to be like a referee in a game. They're not supposed to pick sides. They're supposed to make sure that everyone is playing fairly. That is the job of the free press. They are, in fact, given so much power. They've been given the power to supervise the other three branches of government. But unfortunately, we've gotten to a point where much of the free press isn't free anymore. They've been taken over by conglomerates, and there may be several different news outlets that in fact are controlled by the same entity, which may be controlled by one or a few individuals. And whatever they decide they want you to know is what you know. If they decide how they want you to think is the way you will think. I know people that I talk to, relatives, that have no idea of the information that I know because they depend purely on their local news. And the local news tells them what they think they want them to hear. Give them just enough of the truth to keep them pacified, and then feed them whatever propaganda they want them to know. And in addition to that, avoid telling them things that they should tell them. Avoid alerting them. Like I said, it should be the fourth unelected branch of government that is like a referee, that is like someone that's keeping everybody else in check. See, I'll give you an example. When they had the United States Supreme Court confirmation hearings about Ketanji Brown Jackson, I get her name mixed up, Brown Jackson, Jackson Brown. And when Senator Blackburn asked her to give the definition of a woman. Now, number one, that should have been a ridiculous question to ask anybody. But in the times that we're living in, it was pertinent. And so when Senator Blackburn gave the question, the justice nominee gave an equally ridiculous answer. She cannot. Now, the news media, the unofficial, the referee, they should have been all over this thing saying, this is nonsense. This is ridiculous. Everyone knows that there are only men and women. You know it, and I know it, and everyone else knows it. But the news media didn't hold that position. The news media didn't ridicule the justice nominee and those people that stand up for that nonsense. Why? Because they're a controlled entity now. Even though they live in a world, their homes, that they recognize who's male and female, they're playing along with the charlatan, with the lie, with the facade, because that's what they're paid for. They're not paid to give you the truth anymore. And then these news medias, they act like people like myself may be disseminating false information, when in fact it's the independent person now that is actually more reliable, unfortunately. And it's not that I want that to be the case. I want to show you a small clip that I got from a gentleman, a great clip that shows you just how embedded into the matrix, as it were, is the news system. And they would have you think, because if you just watch your own local news every day, you'll figure this is just your information. You wouldn't figure this is what's happening everywhere. But alas, it is happening everywhere. So take a look at this.
And Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and trending irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Yes, what you just saw is extremely dangerous to our republic. This country is not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. They don't even want you to know that. They want you to think it's just a democracy, which it isn't, because they don't teach civics anymore. All these different local newscasters saying the exact same line. That should make the hairs on your back stand up. That tells you that there is a plan in place to make everyone subject to the same mindset. And it helps control the populace. So the mainstream media slave masters, their goal seems to be just to control us. And like I said, they want to control us not by just what they say, but also by what they don't say. Now I want to show you a little clip of Jasmine Crockett. She just announced her run for the Senate in Texas. But look at this clip.
You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here. We're not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed, that y'all are the ones that are being harmed. It's because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them.
Miss Crockett rambling about white people claiming to be oppressed and talking about how black folks were stolen from their homes and how black folks were mistreated and how black folks were brought here and they didn't belong here. Miss Crockett, who's running for the Senate, has never been oppressed a day in her life. She is a congressperson for a poor part of Texas. She went to school and grew up in Missouri, in St. Louis, a prestigious high school, which cost her parents, or at least costs right now, $35,000 a year. But she plays this role of this angry black woman that's talking about people who are been suffered, who've been brutalized, who've been stigmatized, who have been held back by the white man. But what she doesn't talk about, and what the news media doesn't hold her accountable to talk about, is what is she going to do for black people? She always talks about the necessity of what the white man has done. And she talks about how black folks are this and black folks are that and black folks went through this and that stuff. But she never talks about improving their lives. I've never heard a thing about what she did to make black folks' lives better. And as a Democrat, she's against school choice, which would help people get out of bad schools. She's against vouchers. She's for abortion, which is eliminating black folks by the busload because most of the abortion places are in the minority community. I never hear her say anything about gang violence. And the news media doesn't hold her account because the mass media, mind control slave masters use people like her to keep black folks angry, to keep them angry and not thinking about how their lives could be better if they didn't focus on the past and focus on issues like that she's screaming about all the time and focus on getting their lives better. This is what I'm talking about, like the mass media. They're full of it. Like here's a picture I want you to look at. Look at this. This picture about a trans athlete become the strongest woman contest winner for 2025. Just like I said about Justice, the new Supreme Court Justice, the news media should be saying this is nonsense. All this is a man pretending to be a woman. I remember when Hillary Clinton was running for president, and they were talking about breaking the glass ceiling, talking about how women's right. I remember many years before, particularly before Bill Clinton was president, they were talking about lifting up women, and all these liberal feminists talking about making life better for women. And just as soon as a man decides to become a woman, they got nothing to say. And you would think that the media would have something to say, but they say nothing. If the media was going to be the referee, they would say, well, hey, I would suspect a 150-pound man to lift more than a 150-pound woman because of their testosterone, their bone structure, their natural ability. And at the same time, you would think the news media, if they were going to be the impartial referees, they would object to men going into women's restrooms and spaces. I read an article here recently about a young girl who went to camp and found herself having to share a bed with a transgender boy. They didn't offer her that. They assigned that to her. They didn't tell her parents that's what was going to happen. She had to endure that until they made other arrangements. But the news media, if it wasn't part of the mind control, if they were true referees, they would at least question it. I don't hear them question it. All I hear them bringing the topic up if it's a topic that has come up in some kind of context where they have to address it, but they never sit up there and talk about the moral, the justification for it or unjustification for it. That's why I say we have the media mind control slave masters who are just that. Media mind control slave masters. Now, let me show you another lie that the slave masters produce. They have this ability. Well, it's not an ability. It's just that they can get away with it because nobody holds them accountable. They make up stuff. And this clip I'm going to show you is where this woman was talking about how life was so much better under Obama. I remember when the Obama administration claimed that there were no, I forgot, conspiracies, or I forgot the word, no problems in his administration, controversies, even though they sold guns to Mexican cartel members, even though they dropped off like $144 billion in a pallet of cash to Iran, even though they let the ambassador of where Gaddafi was die, get burned up and killed when they were trying to get help. No, Libya, even though all that stuff, and even though he swore that if you want your doctor, you can keep your doctor, and that Obamacare was going to be great. And now they're all finding out that Obamacare is a lie, but the media is still not bringing that information out. They're avoiding it. They're trying to put it on the Republicans being at fault if they don't fix the lie that Obama and his minions did from day one. They're trying to turn it on Trump. Everything gets turned on Trump. That's why I said these people, they want to control your thinking. When it was only because of the subsidies, that means government money that was spent to keep that stuff artificially low, is why some people were able to maintain it. And even when they got it, it was higher than what it was supposed to be. I think he was talking about a family of four would only spend $2,500 a year. It was all a lie. And no one holds them accountable for it. Just like they didn't hold them accountable for the Russia hoax, for spying on Trump before he got out of office. And when Trump was running the first time, the media mind control slave masters would have the public stupid. Watch this little clip of this deception. If I can get it to play. Let's see here. Yeah, I remember when he was president. And in Philadelphia, the new Black Panthers were standing over there intimidating white voters that wanted to come and vote, and Eric Holder would not prosecute them. I remember when he was president, when Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress, but nothing happened to him. I remember a lot about when he was president, and it wasn't a good thing. I remember before he was president, the racial relations in the United States were a whole lot better than they were before he started to fundamentally change the nation. But the news media carried his water. Matter of fact, I wish I could find the clip and I remember the guy's name, but I remember specifically a news reporter stating that he thought that Barack Obama would be a great president because of the crease in his pants. And I kid you not, the man said that. And I saw here recently, Sunny Holston, I believe her name is, from The View, talking about Trump wants to be, he wants to get this Nobel Peace Prize because Obama got it. And that may be the fact. I think Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize, and I think Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. But if memory serves me, Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize based on potential, based on what they expected from him, not based on anything that he did. And no one, to my knowledge, has ever acknowledged anything that he did that was worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize, which tells you how valuable the Nobel Peace Prize is. I mean, Trump stopped 8 wars? He's been working on peace. Even in his last term, he had the Abraham Accords. And in this new term, he stopped several wars. And he gets nothing. So I don't think him comparing himself to Obama at all. But the media, they won't say nothing about that. They will minimize everything because instead of being impartial referees, they have an agenda. Now, one of the most terrifying things that's going on with this country right now in the news media is what's happening with Islamicism, where Muslims are trying to get control of the world, and they're making headways in the United States. It looked like Europe may be in danger. France and the United Kingdom has big problems. And I don't think many Westerners are thinking this through. They're so busy trying to placate these people that they're not thinking about the fact that both France and the United Kingdom have the bomb. Both of them have weapons of mass destruction that could destroy all of us. And if these people get control, who's going to stop them? I want you to look at this woman, this Muslim woman, talk about how it's the right of Muslims, if they capture the enemy, to rape their women. You may not be able to, you know, she's talking in foreign language, so you have to read it, but watch her. Look at this. This is interesting.
لكن لما الإسلام جه بقى نظمه بإيه؟ إن لا يكون إلا عن طريق الحرب المشروعة بين المسلمين وبين أعدائهم. يعني لو إحنا حاربنا إسرائيل وإسرائيل دي مغتصبة للأرض بل ومعتدية على البشر وعلى العقيدة، وطبعا إحنا بنتكلم عن المستحيل، يعني مستحيل إن إحنا هيجي اليوم اللي نحارب فيه إسرائيل، ولو إن سورة الإسراء مبشرة بكده يعني، وليس مستحيلا على الله سبحانه وتعالى. فأصل الحرب من النساء هم ملك اليمين، بمعنى إن عشان أذلهم بيصبحوا ملكا للقائد أو للجيش أو للمسلم يستمتع بيهم كما يستمتع بزوجاته. بعد بقى المتنطعين والمتشددين واللي بيسيئوا للإسلام يقول لك أنا أجيب واحدة من شرق آسيا تكون ملك يمين وبموافقة زوجتي أخصص لها غرفة وأستمتع بيها كملك يمين. هذا هراء وهذا ادعاء يعني لا يقول به الإسلام إطلاقا، لأن الإسلام بيقول إما على الزوجة وإما ملك اليمين. فإحنا هنا ملك اليمين بالمشروع هو نتيجة أسرى الحرب ضد.
Remember, this was a woman talking. This wasn't even a dude. This was a woman that has no compassion for Western women that aren't Muslims. And our news media doesn't talk about this stuff. You know, our news media doesn't tell us, whereas the Quran says in 328, Muslims must not take infidels as friends. You know, 385, any religion other than Islam is not acceptable. It gets worse. You know, 9:5, when opportunity arises to kill infidels. You know, or 9:30, the Jews and Christians are perverts. Fight them. I did a thing on Turkey a few weeks ago. And Turkey allows them to pretend, if necessary, to be your friend, as long as it's not in their heart. We are running into some serious stuff right now, but our news media, the referee, is not helping us. In places, we just got this thing in Somalia, where the vast majority of those Somalian refugees are Muslims, like the Ilya Omar. And we had, you know, what, $1 billion so far that was stolen, and much of it sent back to Somalia. And many of these people are, you know, committing crime in this country because we're being naive, and our news media, the media mind control slave masters, keep this information from us. I got one more clip I want to show you. I want to show you where these people, the Islamists, they're looking to take over any way they can. And they're not neglecting the ballot box, just like Mandami who's an Islamist and a communist, just won in New York City. And if our news media was doing their job, they would be warning the American people to pay attention to what's happening. Watch this.
So before it was by the sword, now it's getting themselves into parliament and then making laws that act as the sword, the Islamophobia law in Canada, M103.
Yeah.
Muslim Brotherhood.
I find that there are only two things which are open to our movements. Ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
I used to say that democracy is haram. Now I say participation in democracy is our jihad. That's our jihad. We're going to fight not through the bullets but the ballot.
Going to the ballot and voting is now an obligatory action, fard ayn. And it is a jihad that is now needs to be done because this is our modern jihad. You can elect a person who wants the Sharia.
Because in the United States, what we do know is that in the past election, just this last election, there have been over 800 Muslim candidates running for office.
We may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ.
You see that? Dismantling the system of injustice, dismantling our Constitution, and changing it and representing it with the people of their prophet. Sharia law. The news media, these folks, the mind control slave masters, if they were doing their job, they would be telling the American people about what's going on. They would be talking about the fact that the schools are not doing their job. And we need to either give school choice or make people do their job. They should be holding government accountable. So there isn't mass fraud and mass waste. That's their job. They're supposed to be looking at every aspect of our government and what's going on and reporting it to the people and letting the people decide instead of trying to manage the thinking of the people. So you can manage the thinking of people by telling them what they want to know or not telling them what they need to know. There's different ways to do it. And the media mind control slave masters use all of those ways to keep us either angry at each other so we can't see what's going on, or to keep us blind. And what they never do is lift up the United States of America. Oh, they'll say, yeah, when you got the flag salute, this, that, and the other, once in a blue moon, Star Spangled Banner, but they never lift up this country. They don't recommend the teaching of civics. Our children don't know civics anymore. We got children running around here. I read about kids walking out of school in Minneapolis because of ICE. Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. The people hired to protect our borders, to protect those children. If the news media was doing its job, they would be wondering why the schools aren't doing their job. They were reporting that the schools aren't doing their job, so the children don't understand what's going on. Our children should know what's going on. They should be standing up for the United States of America. The normal citizens should be standing for the United States of America. Yet we have citizens, real bona fide American citizens, fighting ICE, fighting other people because we want to get folks out of this country that don't belong here. Because we want people to have more of their tax, their money in their pocket instead of paying taxes to take care of folks that not only do not belong here, but also disrespect our country. And make no mistake about it. Many people that come here and take advantage of us look at us like we're nothing but fools. And they're going to take advantage of the fool. So we need to get control. I'm talking to the average American citizen. You need to be aware of the media mind control slave masters. Don't depend on them. Look beyond them. Make them accountable to tell you the truth. When they're trying to steer you in this direction, start looking over here and see what's really going on. Stop being used and abused. This is your country. If you are a United States citizen, you don't have to take a back seat to the media. You don't have to take a back seat to a politician. You don't have to take a back seat to illegal aliens. You need to stand up for your constitutional rights. But before you can stand up for them, you need to know them. And you need to teach them to your children and make sure they understand this is our country. We're going to protect it. We're going to keep it. And we're going to pass it on to the next generation. This is Sam Tolley, and I'm out.